Thank you for downloading this podcast from the British Theatre Guide. For more information about British Theatre Guide, please visit britishtheatreguide.info. London's Marylebone Theatre is about to present a new production of Arthur Miller's 1968 play The Price, which will be directed by Jonathan Munby and star Olivier Award-winning actor Henry Goodman in the role of 89-year-old Gregory Solomon. You can hear me speaking to Jonathan a bit later in this episode, but first I asked Henry Goodman to talk about his character and how he comes into the story of the play.
There's a family, which so often happens. The parents have died, recently the father, and all the furniture in the house and their estate, basically manifested in the property in which they live, set in the 1960s. It's got to be sold off. Yeah. So he himself is an older man, to say the least. He's 89 years old.
Yeah.
And I'm in my 70s, but
you're playing up in age.
But he's a real life force, and he's used to going into people's homes when these events happen. You know, people die, get divorced, whatever, and then they got to sell off the property and to deal with the estate and stuff. And he's done this all his life, so he's used to. He's developed a great professional skill, but also by personality, which is the key thing. He's a generous, warm grasper of life, a life-enhancing sort of person. And that's so much what attracted me to the role. And so although they're locked, the two brothers that have got to sell, and the one is a policeman and his wife, they've got to sell the two brothers' father's property, the furniture. They invite this elderly, genial, ebullient man to give them an appraisal of the what money it will rise, and so Solomon is not it's not purely chance that he's called Solomon, because he's pretty wise in dealing with the hidden tensions in family life when it comes to dividing up the spoils.
Yeah.
And he helps them. He really helps them to negotiate the sins of the past and the resentments and all of those things. And bit by bit, you also get a little sense, although it's not the dominant thing, that he's got skeletons in his own cupboard,
right.
As well.
Yeah. I've only seen this play once before. It doesn't seem to come up very often. And I saw David Thacker's production at the Octagon in Bolton just about exactly 15 years ago. And I noticed in my review, I described it as your character, Gregory, as being unusual for Miller. It's a comic character, although he's got serious moments. Is that fair, do you think?
Yeah, he's funny. He's the sort of person who's life enhancing. When you meet him, he's interested in you.
Yeah.
He lives life to the full. So I think that's fair. But when you say comic, it's this. My job is in the acting of it is to get to the spirit of what makes him like that.
Yeah.
Because actually, he's escaped from Lithuania as a refugee. He's lived in 6 different countries. And he's in a certain sense like a float that rises to the surface. He doesn't let things get him down. And the two brothers are burdened by their appetites for New York life.
Yeah.
Having to overcome sort of the Depression and the Vietnam War and all of that. So it's set in a political context where, as with all of Arthur Miller, the political becomes personal. The choices you take, especially in a ruthlessly sort of mercantile environment, business-like. And so the play, I know people always say this, but it really does speak to a similar situation with recent, conflicts and wars and crashes in the finance world. We really have seen so it's got great insights on a fun personal level, but he is a comic character in that sense.
Yeah. I mean, this is from 1968, I think, isn't it, originally, although it's not been done as much as a lot of his plays, so it's the same age as me, actually, the play.
Oh, right.
But
no, well, I'm a bit older.
So the politics that he was obviously thinking about when he wrote the play, do you think they're still relevant to today's world?
Absolutely. I think, we clearly can reflect, and in that sense, it's helpful to an audience to negotiate. Like all theatre, it offers the opportunity to, on the simplest level, think, well, gosh, what would I do in that situation?
Yeah.
But here comes a guy in terms of Solomon, who, although he's anchored by his own attitudes, some of which are very different to today's world, he's also had to survive the Depression.
Yeah.
He's also had to survive his brothers and family going into the army, and as the two brothers have. And the wife is very important in terms of the sexual politics of, so looking through today's lens, you really understand, having the money to live the life the basic comforts of life. Yeah, I mean, with all the upheaval that's happened recently within the recent votes and the Green Party, and being a plumber is always an honest way to earn a living, and all of those things, you can sense people bring a magnetic connection with the issues in the play.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I actually live in that constituency that you're talking about, where we've just got the Green Party plumber as our MP.
Right, yeah. But Miller, he's always, all his life, he came to the National Theatre when I was in Broken Glass, another of his plays, and was, absolutely remarkable in terms of not only his deep generosity to human beings in the things they go through, but this challenge to himself, so he's deservedly become somebody to respect in terms of he challenges himself to live up to. It's a bit like some people say reputation is something that's from the outside on people's achievements or whatever.
Yeah.
But integrity is a very personal, and yeah, he's deeply interested in how we reinvent ourselves once we get to know the things that are driving us, and maybe not quite so proud of some of those things. We have to reinvent ourselves.
Yeah. And you've played some great classical roles, but you've also played, you played Miller before. You were in Broken Glass a while ago. But
Yeah,
you have performed in some political plays, like playing Artur Ui, which a Jewish actor playing Hitler is a political statement itself. Are the politics of the play something that you look at when you're taking a role?
To be honest, even playing Roy Cohn in Angels in America, and Arturo Ui, partly people come to me because I'm willing to enter into, and my job is to enter into and make believable what makes people tick.
Yeah.
And that's not pleasant, So one of the joys of this role is that he's a more generous, warm, hungry appetite for life. But to address your question, it's great to feel that one is revealing malevolent behavior. And that's what Brecht was all about.
Yeah.
Miller's much more like Ibsen or modern realist writers. But he is a poet. The thing about Brecht was he was unequivocally political. And that's what I was proud about but even playing Billy Flynn in Chicago, or the big musicals that I've done, there's a sense of my job it's particularly the case when it's overt in Brecht. But my instinct is always to serve the play and let the play speak. And Miller was very keen on that.
Right.
And in Brecht's case, the play was set out to warn people in the 30s when he left Germany. Yeah, and you could even say Billy Flynn in Chicago is a warning of manipulative, charismatic lawyers. You could even say that Roy Cohn in Angels in America is a warning. My job is to make him fatally, charismatically attractive.
Yeah.
So you realize, oh my God, I could believe in this horrendous person.
Yeah. And you're performing this at the Marylebone Theatre, which is a relatively new theatre. Have you had a chance to explore the theatre yet?
Yes, I had to look around, and I've seen some productions, and I'm going this week to see the Yentl
Oh,
um, visiting production. It's what's exciting about it in this very much intimate chamber piece is the scale of the theatre. You know, it's a couple of hundred seats as opposed to the big thousands of seats. You know, like the National, or in the West End, 800, 900, where I've often worked. And to get back to that terrific family drama,
yeah,
because in a way, the Solomon, who comes to look at the furniture and assess what it's worth, he helps. You know, in a way, he's a bit like. It makes them think of their own background and father and so on. So it's an intimate family drama with humor.
do you enjoy the rehearsal process for theatre, or are you always just keen to get in front of that audience?
It's if I'm honest, it's sort of mixture of anxiety, and slowly your shoulders go down and you trust working with your colleagues. In the build up beforehand, you're drinking in so much of background and trying to intuit things that will help liberate the performance, and learning lines, which gets tougher as you get older.
Yeah,
Um, but the great liberation of rehearsal is to trust the play, especially with Arthur Miller, and especially to be surprised by every moment with your colleagues. You know, when you're working on your own, you think, oh, this is going on and that's going on. I might be thinking this. But then when you're looking at somebody in the face, or not looking because of embarrassment or whatever may be going on in the moment, it's all about the contact between the people. And I know that may sound obvious, but to trust that, that's a liberation. And it's not about me. It's about us
yeah,
working together to create a spell.
yeah. So, what do you want from a director in the rehearsal room then?
Courage to, and which is no problem with Jonathan. You know, in his case, he's already got a deep humanity, especially in a play like this.
Yeah,
The rapport and the spell of rehearsal it generates, and then you trust that they are putting on an outer carapace through which the play is experienced, but the rehearsal process is primarily rooted in guiding us, you know, to be the best us we can be.
yeah. I was looking back at some of the things you've done, and I noticed it must be a record. You played two different Freuds at different times. You played Lucian recently, and I actually saw you as Sigmund Freud in Hysteria about, was it 30 years ago?
Right, yeah. Gosh,
that...
many years ago. Yeah. But see, there's the man. I mean, and all, you know, Miller says he was born a Freudian,
yeah,
and so he's interested in the subconscious and all of that. Although, you know, what's lovely is about there's a theatrical dynamism to the intimacy on stage in the family life, and that's where the wit comes from. But you know, intellectually, Miller is a formidable intellect, and in terms of understanding the Freudian things, and it's given me. I mean, it's given me a vocabulary to deal with myself, let alone deal with being an actor.
yeah,
Um, yeah, because we get underneath the skin of what makes people tick. And I think it's fair to say Freud really opened the door. There have been great developments since, but he opened the door into hidden repression and motivation and subconscious behavior. And then I went on to play with Juliet Stevenson in Duet for One, a therapist.
yeah,
But it's also helped me when there's nothing to do with therapy in the plays, even with Solomon, you know, to sniff out those little moments, and they might be passing in a flick of half a sentence when you think, wow, that must have impacted deeply on him, but he's not making a big deal about it. But yeah, just to sniff those things out is something that I learned to trust playing Freud.
yeah. Freud is particularly probably a lot more than Britain. He was very much more influential, probably in American drama and in American acting. So does he give more of an insight into an American play like one of Miller's?
Freud.
Yeah.
Well, at the risk of sounding portentous, he gives an insight into all humanity.
Yeah.
Because especially in modern Western society, I mean, he wrote with Einstein a leaflet that I turned into a small show to do at the Bloomsbury home of Virginia Woolf and Leonard Woolf, called "Why War After the War?" A debate about what drives people to go to war, which is, the sort of macro pressures and death wish instincts and all sorts of things. Yeah, he speaks to, I think, and of course there are different cultural imperatives in different parts of the world, but he speaks to human beings being pulled, just like in The Price, between success, money, supporting your family, doing the best for yourself and for your family, and the things you might do that you regret in the chasing of that success.
Yeah.
And he addresses those things in modern, financially driven modern society. So yes, he does. Yeah.
You've, like I said before, you played some of the great classical and modern roles. I mean, Angels in America is one of my favourite plays, and you played Shylock. Is there anything? Is there anything that's still there as something that you want to tackle, or something that you feel you didn't get the best of the first time round you'd like to go for again?
Yeah, the true, honest feeling that I have is that, and that's one of the great attractions to this role, is it's rich, even though it's buoyant. It's rich, and that, I'm getting older, so I don't necessarily want to play Lear and all those things, because they're very, very demanding.
Yeah.
So it's looking for the Lear and the other things, the humanity. That's enough for me in the work that I do, and that comes up. Yeah, I'm not ambitious in that sense. I cherish the opportunities that are locked into what's going on, what's on offer. I have been offered several leading roles recently that I've decided to enjoy doing less and being able to go more thoroughly into them instead of being under that huge pressure at the moment. I'm enjoying that.
Yeah. And are you doing any more musical theatre? You've done lots of musicals in the past as well.
Yeah, no, I think those days are gone. I'm not saying you never know, but a great leading role of 8 shows a week is very demanding, and I'm very glad I've done the ones I've done, the Guys and Dolls and Fiddle on the Roof, and So, but what's nice about that is there's a lot of people that bring an act of trust and faith to go where my instincts lead me. They've seen and supported my work over a long period, and so I owe it to them to say thank you for your affirmation and trust. Let's go down this alleyway.
That was Henry Goodman, who plays Gregory Solomon in Arthur Miller's The Price, directed by Jonathan Munby. I asked Jonathan why he wanted to direct this particular play, and why now.
It's a play that stayed with me for a long time. I saw it in the West End, actually a couple of times. One with Warren Mitchell playing Solomon, and a few years later with David Suchet playing the role. And it stayed with me for a number of reasons, not least because that central role is fascinating. It's an extraordinary character and funny in a way that you don't usually find in Arthur Miller plays. I mean, wonderful. There's a great comedy in there, which is a great counterbalance to the drama, and a total gift for a great actor. And it's also, a play about so many things, but it's about fathers and sons. And I think for anyone that's had a difficult relationship with their father, it resonates very deeply. And I think asks some pretty fundamental questions about who we are and about the choices that we've made, and maybe specifically the cost or the price that we pay in relation to those choices. did I make the right choices in my life? And also about the stories that we tell ourselves in order to live the life that we live. And so it resonated with me when I saw it back then, and it stayed with me. And I kind of thinking about the stories to tell in these kind of post-COVID years. And it strikes me that Arthur Miller, writing sort of post-crash and in Depression era America, was sort of dealing with some of the same challenges that we are facing in terms of our lives, in terms of how we survive, and perhaps the choices that we made. In Miller's play, he gives us two very different points of view through the two brothers, and really matches them against each other. One who dealt with the depression through kind of self-interest and promotion and business and success and fighting the sort of monster, and the other who was interested more in duty and sacrifice and took a very different path. We get both points of view in the play, both questionable, both choices that come back to haunt them in some way. You get a sense that both built on, I think, fractured foundation as well. And I think that feeds into some of the choices that we're making now in terms of our lives in this post-COVID time. So that really, I feel like it's absolutely a play for now. And also I'd been doing a reading with Henry, and it just seemed to me the most perfect fit. That role of Solomon kind of lies in wait for kind of great actors like Henry. And it sort of fits like a glove. And so, I couldn't wait to kind of offer Henry and take up the opportunity at Marylebone, which is great theatre. It's having some really wonderful success recently. Yeah. And a beautifully kind of intimate auditorium too. The audience will feel like they're in the attic with these characters as the drama unfolds. And that really excites me.
Yeah. It is an unusual character for Miller, though, Solomon, isn't he? I was looking back. The only time I've ever seen it was 15 years ago, just about exactly 15 years ago, when David Thacker did it here, up here in Bolton.
Oh, yeah. I heard about that production. Yeah.
But I did say in my review then that it's a comic character, really, which you don't expect to see in Miller, do you?
No, you don't. It's fascinating. You get the sense that it's a number of characters or people that Miller may have encountered in his life, channeled through Solomon. But it's deceptive too. Yes, it's funny. He's funny, and there's a great kind of turn of phrase, and there's a great showman in there from a kind of vaudeville past. But it's deceptive in the way that the character acts as like a kind of catalyst for the drama. He sits also as referee between the two brothers to a certain extent. Miller's writing is so brilliant, and it's so well crafted that he represents, or he brings the father who died 16 years before on stage with the brothers through this character of Solomon. It's a sort of genius stroke by Miller, and that you also have one of the wife of one of the brothers there as well. So in moments, it feels like you've got the whole family unit represented on stage. Yeah. So, the character's deceptive, yes, funny, but also, as I said, acts as a kind of catalyst to break open the drama and break open the past and allow these two brothers to see themselves and their choices reflected back at them.
It is quite like Ibsen in the sense that everything has already happened in the past and it's suddenly coming to a head at some point, isn't it?
Yeah. I don't think the audience quite see where this play is going to go. They're great. It's a gift for a director, actually. There are great kind of turning points, kind of key events that shift and actually allow kind of the characters to take really unexpected turns. Neither of them expect to have the conversations today that they have. The dramatic action actually is in the argument, is in the conversation, and that's kind of going to be really thrilling to explore in rehearsal.
Do you enjoy doing that sort of thing, work in rehearsals then? Is that something that you do it for?
Yeah, totally. I've been really lucky in my career, but I've also ended up staging quite big productions, quite big shows, with a huge number of cast, and whether that's Shakespeare or adaptations of kind of great novels and so on. This is a gift because it's just 4 people, 4 people in a room, and I can't wait to get in there and to get our hands dirty and kind of like dig in the mess and the dirt of these wonderfully fallible human beings.
Yeah, I mean, he's known as a political playwright, Miller, but he's great at writing family dramas as well, particularly male characters. Yeah. He is good at this intense family drama, isn't he, when things come to a head?
Oh, absolutely he is. And, he says this play is not autobiographical, and yet everything that I read, especially in Time Bends, Arthur Miller's great autobiography, it's entirely autobiographical. It comes absolutely out of his own lived experience, the relationship with his brother, the cost of success to him, the relationship with his father, the relationship between his parents. It's all lived out through the characters in the Price. I mean, it feels like therapy for on some level. It's fascinating that, of course, writers know what they know, or write what they know, I should say, and Miller is using every aspect of his own lived experience to inform every aspect of this piece. It's a wonderful reflection, I think, on the challenges that he faced in relation to post-Depression America, the Vietnamese War, the son of an immigrant, and trying to make sense of McCarthyism too. Yeah, trying to make sense of a kind of survival.
Yeah, and this was 1968, wasn't it, when it was originally produced?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
And some of the issues that you just mentioned are coming back, aren't they?
They absolutely are. Yeah, we're at war again. And
immigration's a big thing again.
Immigration's a big thing. Yeah. It's what Miller does so brilliantly, I think, is offer us a kind of moral space, a kind of an arena to ask kind of fundamental questions as kind of human beings. What do we owe each other? What is justice? How should we live? And I'm really grateful for Miller to kind of provide us, that opportunity. Why this play now? Well, we need Miller, it feels like, And it's interesting to me that it's no coincidence, I think, that there are a number of Miller revivals happening right now.
Yeah. So do the politics of a play like this affect the way you approach it as a director in the rehearsal room?
Yeah. Well, they certainly attract me to the play. I'm always looking for stories that connect with us and hold a mirror up to not just the world that we're in, but us as individuals, our own sense of morality, our own choices. I want to see that reflected back. I want a debate with myself, with each other, But yeah, the politics really excite me. I think we have to continually make a claim for what theatre offers us, and to celebrate what theatre can give us as a society. Theatre is a political arena, and also a safe political arena too. To have these debates. I saw a brilliant play at Marylebone last year called "What We Talk About When We Talk About Anne Frank." And I was really excited by the provocation of that piece, about the debate that it offered us in a kind of safe arena. It felt important and pretty vital at a time where we're asking some fundamental questions about identity, and about in that sense as well about Jewish identity. And this play offers us some similar, I think, opportunity to have really interesting conversations about fundamentally who we are as human beings, as a society. So the politics of it are really important to me. Yeah.
And as you said before, you've done a lot of Shakespeare. You directed McKellen as Lear and Jonathan Pryce as Shylock. But where do you think Miller sits within the canon of the classics?
Oh gosh. Well, one of the greatest playwrights that had ever lived. I mean, I had the privilege of directing The Crucible a few years ago, and was just struck when I entered that world, just what an extraordinary playwright Miller is. Elia Kazan was absolutely right. These plays aren't written, they're built.
Yeah.
And you feel like they're kind of very safe hands, that there's a master at work here. And, as a director, I feel so lucky to be able to not just tell these stories, but to work with a writer who absolutely crafts the argument, crafts character, crafts situation so beautifully. This is one of the most incisive plays I think that Miller wrote. It really, really cuts to the core of something fundamental.
It makes you wonder why it's not done more often then, really, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think it's a lot to do with casting. I think the role of Solomon is a brilliant role, but it's quite specific. The need for an actor with Jewish heritage, perhaps somebody that is a showman, somebody that has the wit, the charisma, but also the age. I mean, the character is nearly 90. Yeah. So you need somebody that can sort of credibly, be able to deliver that. And maybe it doesn't have, I don't know, the kind of reputation of All My Sons or Death of a Salesman. But I think it's a strong, and as I said, incisive. It's a wonderful, chamber piece.
And you've got a pretty good actor in Henry Goodman. So how did you manage to get him?
Well, we had just been doing a reading together, a development reading of a play that Marylebone have commissioned. And he was wonderful in the reading. And I knew instinctively that he would be the most brilliant Solomon in this play. So we approached him to do it, and lo and behold, it's a role that he'd had his eye on. So it all came together pretty, in a pretty straightforward way. I mean, he's an actor I've admired for many, many years, and have been wanting to work with. So it's a gift, really.
Yeah. What does your production look like? What's the design? Is it totally naturalistic?
It's a good question. We've been on quite a journey, John Borsa, the designer, and I, through the process of designing this show. Miller writes in the kind of tradition of naturalism, with this piece, at a time actually where he was experimenting with form, and the play that he wrote after the Price, after the Fall, is much more experimental and lives in a kind of dreamscape, much more abstract. This, however, absolutely requires a kind of rooting in a kind of real quote unquote place. So we're in an attic. We are surrounded by the furniture of the father of these two boys, and there's a lot of conversation about those particular objects. They take on a hugely symbolic resonance because they are the past. They are the weight of the past. Each item seems to trigger something of their past. The amount of furniture is absolutely wonderfully symbolic of the weight of choice, the weight of the past that sits on the shoulders of these two. So that's the starting point for it. But we wanted to kind of push it a little bit into a more kind of psychological space. I'm not going to spoil it for you.
Okay.
but it's rooted in naturalism, but we also go on a journey as well, as the play does. As the play really investigates choices that were made and the kind of the sort of psychological, emotional impact of those choices. The production takes on a kind of resonance and a kind of moves into a kind of more psychological space. Yeah,
right.
But also, as I said, that the gift of the Marylebone Theatre is the intimacy of it.
Yeah.
Like what we want to do is bring the design out as far as we can into the auditorium to allow the audience to feel like they're in the attic with these characters, that they're in the room with them, that they're implicated in the drama in some way.
Yeah. It's funny how naturalistic plays can often lend themselves to, Ibsen has, there have been some wildly unnaturalistic productions of Ibsen over the years.
Yeah,
and there's symbols and the messages in there, they seem to lend themselves to other styles as well.
Yeah, that's right. One of my favorite productions that I've ever seen is Ivo van Hove's production of View from the Bridge a few years ago. I saw it at the Young Vic. That blew me sideways. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. you still work at Royal Welsh College of Music and Drama?
No, I left Royal Welsh College last summer. Yeah, after 5 extraordinary years as their director of performance, looking after the acting courses, and I had a fascinating and wonderful time getting to know the team there and getting to understand what running an organization was about, but also being part of the kind of conversation about what actor training might need to be now. I think after the kind of huge political, cultural shifts that we've experienced over the last few years, actor training needed to change. And it was a real privilege to be part of the conversation around that change and what that change looked like. Yeah. So yeah, it was 5 extraordinary years, but I kind of knew coming to the end of that 5 years that I wanted to come back to directing full time. I missed it too much, and my home's in London, and I knew that it was time to leave. But I leave it in really good shape, I think. And there's some amazing people in that organisation, and some really wonderful students. And it's a really important thing that they're doing at Royal Welsh. Yeah.
Do you think those 5 years have changed you as a director? Do you think they've affected how you approach work?
Oh, yeah, that's a really interesting question. Yeah, I absolutely they have. Having been working with young people every day and being in a room and really understanding what young people are about these days, especially in a kind of post-COVID space, has really sharpened me as a director, sharpened my practice, and really invited me to make sure that I'm making work that resonates truly, with the younger audience as well, and feels and work that is truly accessible. Yeah, I think that's one of the kind of major things that I kind of learned in my time there was about, what does inclusivity actually mean? What does accessibility actually mean? Mm. And to make sure that we're making work in theatre that allows for that.
Yeah. Sometimes we learn as much from our students as they learn from us, if not more, don't we?
Yeah, I totally feel that. Yeah.
So you're about to start rehearsals. Where what happens at the first rehearsal? What's going to happen?
Well, we'll all be very nervous. It's interesting. I'm also being reunited in this production with a couple of actors that I've worked with before. Elliot Cowan played Henry V for me at the Royal Exchange in Manchester some years ago now, and he and I have always wanted to work together again. We had a great time telling that story all those years ago, and it's taken a long time for us to find the right next project, and this is it. So yeah. It would be wonderful to be reunited with Elliot and John Hopkins. I knew from the RSC from my first season as an assistant director there in the early 2000s. So it's going to be great to see those two guys and be reunited. That'll take some of the fear off. Yeah, but I'm in a room with some people I know. But yeah, the first day we're actually going to sit down and read it and hear the play. And I think that's really important for them to just hear each other's voices and for us to hear the story and to begin to kind of dive in and begin to unpick it. We'll also share the design as well. It's important that the actors see the design work that John and I have been working on and see John's brilliant vision for this production so that they can factor that into their work. Yeah. It's one of the reasons I love theatre is about collaboration, and we've got such a great team working on this. Not just the actors, but stage management, the creative team, producers. It's a really wonderful group of people who are all dedicated to the same thing in terms of just trying to make this piece sing, yeah, and be as resonant as it possibly can for a contemporary audience. And yeah, it's a privilege to be kind of big part of that team.
Apart from the price. Do you have anything else coming up that you know about? You can talk about.
Yeah. We've just announced a show that I'm going to be directing at Bath Theatre Royal later this year, a revival of Edward Bond's extraordinary play, his only comedy, called The Sea, which will be starring Jennifer Saunders as Mrs. Raffi. And, again, it's that's a sort of dream come true in a way. It's a play that I've known for a long time and have loved, but Jennifer is an actor that I adore and have admired all my life, it feels like, and so to be making a show with her feels like an incredible privilege. Yeah, and I know she'll kill it as well. It's an amazing comic invention, Mrs. Raffi in The Sea, played by some wonderful actors, in the past, from Judi Dench to Eileen Atkins, and Jennifer is absolutely right for it. And she read it and fell in love with it, and we met and we talked, and I just know we're going to have a great time working on it. So that opens in the autumn. We rehearse in September and open October, playing for a limited run at Bath Theatre Royal, and I know it's almost sold out. So if people want to come and see it, they need to get their skates on.
That was Jonathan Munby, the director of The Price, starring Henry Goodman. Finally, I asked Henry if there was anything more he wanted to add about the play.
No, just to say that it's a powerful and fun role to play in a very moving drama which speaks now to very urgent things,
The Price, directed by Jonathan Munby and starring Henry Goodman, will run at Marylebone Theatre in London from the 17th of April to the 7th of June 2026. For more information and tickets, see www.marylebonetheatre.com.
You've been listening to a podcast from British Theatre Guide. For more information, please visit britishtheatreguide.info.